Good evening. What has happened during the last 20 days in Ukraine has shocked the world. Vladimir Putin's war has seen cities bombarded, hundreds of civilians killed and 3 million people flee the country. As well as the humanitarian cost, there is, of course, a huge economic cost to Ukraine, impossible to estimate at the moment. But the scale of the war means the effects are also being felt right across the globe. Over the next hour, I'll be speaking to analysts, economists and business people to find out what the war in Ukraine means for the global economy and whether it could snuff out the post-pandemic recovery. But first to Ukraine itself. A little earlier, I spoke to Sergei Sivkach. He's the executive director of UkraineInvest. He spoke to me from the capital, Kiev, about the damage being done by the Russians in Ukraine.
They did a great damage to Ukrainian economy. And they did great damage also to regional and to global economy. I will tell you one example. Ukraine is a big agricultural country. We are 42 million people in the center of Europe, but we feed more than 150 million people worldwide. Last year, we managed to harvest more than 85 million tons of grain crops. This year, if we will not manage to do sowing works, and they have to start now, you can imagine what's going to happen. And about half of our harvest was exported to all countries throughout the world. So this could be a humanitarian crisis that will affect not only Ukraine, but the whole world. It is very important now to stop this war. You know, our president, our politicians, our people, they scream out loud, saying, asking for a no-fly zone, and this is still not happening. So this will have a very serious effect on Ukraine region and the whole globe.
Apart from the issue over the no-fly zone, are there any other sanctions that the West could be applying to Russia?
Well, we have seen sanctions. We have seen many sanctions, but some of them, like SWIFT disconnection, for example, it's not a full disconnection. So some banks, some intermediaries, they still use SWIFT. So Ukraine definitely wants to see proper sanctions, solid sanctions that will have immediate effect on Russia. There is no room for half measures at the moment.
Obviously, in your role at UkraineInvest, you speak to partners from all over the world. What have you heard from investors like the Chinese, who are obviously being quite ambivalent in terms of how they're playing this?
Well, we didn't see many Chinese investments in Ukraine. We have been approached by Chinese investors many times, but we didn't see real investments in Ukrainian economy so far. At the moment, we can only say that they probably still interested, but obviously, we do not talk to investors right now about investments. We talk to investors about the ways we can support them. One of the key issues right now is support in terms of relocation from affected regions to Western Ukraine. We are 24/7 in touch with investors, Ukrainian and foreign investors, when we are helping them to do so. And we will need to have some solid analog of Marshall Plan in Ukraine. The plan that was created by United States for European countries after the Second World War. And this will have to be very solid, pragmatic, and a very well-planned way to recover Ukrainian economy.
It will also require a vast amount of money. Is it possible, do you think, to put a figure on the kind of money that might be needed in reconstruction?
Well, at the moment, our officials talk about negative effects at level of about 120 billion US dollars. But these are very, preliminary assessments, and I'm sure that the figure will be much higher.
And in terms of the kind of things that would be needed, presumably restoring damaged infrastructure will be the priority.
Damaged infrastructure, bridges, airports, because airports were targets number one for Russians. Also, residential houses. Only in Kharkiv city, the city that is near the Russian border, already more than 6 600 residential buildings destroyed. 600. And I'm talking about 9-story, 12-story buildings, you know. So this is, we cannot even calculate appropriately now how much money we will need. In Kiev, we do not need alarm anymore, unfortunately, because every morning, 5 a.m. sharp, they send missiles, and missiles are sent to hit residential houses, not military targets. Just next to me, 700 meters away, the residential house was hit yesterday at 5 a.m. Today, same story in Kiev. At least 5 civilians were dead at 5 a.m. today. So it's a very important topic, you know, to discuss, a no-fly zone. Our president also said if there is no possibility to introduce a full-scale no-fly zone, then Ukraine needs to receive anti-missile systems.